I guarantee you, by the time you finish this video, you will be a 10 times better Madden player. And the reason that is because all of these tips can be implemented immediately into your game. You won't have to spend hours and hours of practice to try to get them to work or figure them out, but you can implement them right as soon as you finish the video. On top of this, these tips are so important because you can implement them in every facet of Madden 23. You can do it in Ultimate Team, franchise mode, online head-to-head, or even if you're a competitive solo battles guy and you're playing the CPU competitively, well, you can also implement these tips and they will help you 100% of the time. Now, we're gonna start off this video with more beginner level tips, and as we move through, the tips will become more and more advanced, but it also means the tips will become much better as we move through the video. Now, I'm not here to waste your time. Let's just get straight into it. In tip number 1, we're gonna be going over a tip to stop the run. We're gonna call it the right stick trick. And what it does is when you press in the right stick, so it's R3 on PlayStation, on Xbox, I'm not sure what it's called, but you're just pressing it down to the point where you hear a little click, right? And when you hear that little click, you know that the closest defender not in a run fit, which we're gonna go over in the next tip, what run fits are and how you could use them to run towards the runner or the ball carrier. So in this case, the closest defender in the stretch to the left here will be this deep half. And this deep half is not in a run fit. So as you can see, when we call this play, and I run the ball, this deep half takes a second to react, and it allows us to get outside and our lineman to pick up the block, right? Very easily. However, if we did press R3, so here's the difference. I'm gonna press R3 this time. So snap the ball, R3. You could see that the defender, although he was to the left there, started to react to the play much faster. And this has been a tip for many years, but not many people know about it. And it takes a little while to find someone talking about it on YouTube. So you can see he's starting to react to the play. I'm gonna move him more to the inside so you can see it react and actually help you a little bit more. So I'm gonna push him inside and you're gonna see him react to the run just a little bit better. And as you can see, he starts to cut up the field, and we're able to make the play just a little bit faster. So this tip has been in the game for a very long time. So if you are looking to stop the run just a little bit better and even cause a little bit more sheds, like the lineman will shed a little bit better once you press R3. So as you can see, I pressed R3 right about there, and you can see he won his animation. He's beginning to win his animation. I pressed it right as they won their animations, right? So it tells your defense that it is a run. Please react to the run as follows, right? So that's the right stick trick, and that's tip number 1. In this tip, we're going to be going over run fits and why they're so important in stopping the run and how to call certain coverages relative to what run you're expecting from your opponent. So in this case, we are in a cover 0 over Storm Brave. And as you can see, when I display my run fits, all of these defenders, so if they run to the left, both safeties and the slot cornerback are going to react to the ball. And if they run to the right, neither safety, but both linebackers and the slot cornerback are going to react to the ball. And this is part of the reason why man coverage is really good run defense year in and year out. As you can see, I got stopped in my tracks. I was running a solid HB stretch run play, and I was still stopped. So definitely keep that in mind when you're just really thinking of a quick run defense you want to run. Cover 0 is great. So let's go over the different types of coverages and what run fits they are. The worst run fit, in my opinion, is cover 3, because in cover 3, only the slot cornerback is in a run fit, and this other slot cornerback is sometimes in a run fit. In this case, he is, but it's not often that he is. So I think cover 3 really is weak, because if you allow them to get outside, so I actually broke a tackle right there, but if you do get outside, there's an option for a very large gain. But it's still a solid run defense if you're expecting an inside run, and it's also great for shotgun inside runs. If you're expecting an outside run, I definitely recommend cover 2. The reason I like cover 2 is because the outside corner, in this case, Jamal Dean here, will be in a run fit relative to the side that they run the ball. So if they run it to the left, you can see that this outside corner actually does react to the ball, and he's there to make the play. If they are running to the inside, I do recommend a cover 4 defense. So in cover 4, regardless of where they run, both safeties are in run fits, regardless if they run left or regardless if they run right. So in this case, if I'm running outside, cover 4 is decent, right? Especially if you can keep them to the inside, if you can sweep with your user. And when I say sweep, I would mean you could call cover 4 quarters, and if they're running outside, you can run all the way to the outside and push everything to the inside allowing your safeties to react and your linebackers to react to the ball. And that's part of the reason cover 4 is a very, very solid run defense. And that's why 3-4 odd, cover 4 drop, you see a lot of players run at lower levels just because it's such a solid run D, and it's actually difficult to beat by certain passing offenses, right? And that's why cover 4 is so great. And if they're running inside, I would recommend cover 4 or cover 3. If they're running outside, I'd recommend cover 4 or cover 2. And as you can see, if they do run an inside run and I'm running cover 4, I press just to get them a little bit closer. If I run inside, you can see that both safeties are reacting to the ball. And if it did go even deeper, the safeties would come down and obviously tackle that running back, right? So in man coverage, the run fits vary depending on what man coverage you're in, but usually it's a solid run fit. So in this case, it's both safeties, which is similar to cover 4, which is great if they run left or right. Now, to display the run fits of your play, what you're going to have to press on PlayStation is L2 and R2, and either square for running to the left, how the defense will react, and circle if they're running to the right, so for how the defense will react for runs to the right. So that's how you would see these run fits on how your defensive coverage will react to the run. So definitely keep those in mind for those situations where you're really expecting a certain run for your opponent, and you could kind of design your coverage to stop the run. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to urge you to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon for the best Madden tips that you can find on the entire internet. We all know that practice makes perfect in Madden, and in order to practice and lab all of these plays, it can take a really long time. However, I'm going to introduce you some practice mode shortcuts that can really chow down on that time. So, the first practice mode shortcut that I'm going to showcase is the respot ball. Some people may pause the game and then hit respot ball in order to move the ball around, but you actually don't have to do that. You can actually use the shortcut in the game, which is pressing both triggers down and both sticks down. So on PlayStation, that's L2, R2, L3, and R3. So I'm going to navigate what it looks like, and here we are. It looks just like so. You press all of these buttons and it lets you respot the ball very easily. The next tip that you can actually use is instead of hitting the pause button and hitting choose new play, you can actually just hit the button you use for timeout in an online game. So on PlayStation, that's the middle button, and that'll immediately allow you to choose a new play. And on Xbox, that's actually the top left button. I think it looks like a screen in screen. The one that you use to call timeout on Xbox is the button you're going to press in order to call a new play without having to go through the pause menu. The regular team's practice mode sometimes doesn't offer us the unique abilities and lineups and matchups that you may face in Ultimate Team, franchise mode, and other things like that. And that's what Madden Ultimate Team practice mode provides for us that they recently added. However, we can't access 2 controllers according to the developers. But actually, there is a workaround in order to get 2 controllers in practice mode, which is absolutely necessary to identify and actually lab. Because if you can only control one side of the ball, then you can't identify certain variables and get better at the game. So all you have to do to access 2 controllers is hit the pause button, then go to options, go to controller select, and then you turn on the second controller. It's important that I mention this. The second controller cannot be on before you get to the screen. So you turn on the second controller, you click the user that you're going to have to use. So in this case, we're going to use user 1. And then all we're going to do is press it to the left or the right, press accept. And then on the second play, so I'm just going to go down with my quarterback here. On the second play, you'll actually notice that you have that second controller in practice mode. The most important quick adjustment to learn in Madden is how to pinch your entire defense. And in order to do that, all we have to do is press the right bumper and down on the left stick. Now this will press our corners, pinch our D-line, and pinch our linebackers. This will help us stop inside runs because we have more players in the box, and outside runs for the same reason. It will also help stop the quick passing game because we'll have more players in the interior of the field. So for example, if I were to run cover 3 and not pinch my defense, you'll notice that I'll be able to hit this seam fairly easily. But if I did pinch my defense, you'll see that the curl flat and the outside third will be much closer. So in this case, we're going to pinch our defense and we're going to go to throw this pass. And as you can see, the curl flat is blanketing that tight end streak. So pinching your defense is by far the best quick adjustment you could learn. If you enjoy playing online head-to-head with regular teams, there's a chance you're not using this crucial tip, and that's actually the online hub depth charts. So in this case, you sometimes won't have the best players at the best position at all times. So for example, let's take a quick look at the Cardinals team. So specifically their receiving core. So in this case, DeAndre Hopkins is a fantastic receiver. Marquise Brown, a great fast receiver. However, since the Cardinals are using a lot of AJ Green, he's actually at depth chart 3. But as you can see, Rondale Moore at 80 overall and Robbie Anderson at 79 overall are a higher overall than AJ Green, and they're also significantly faster. So in this case, you'd want to actually have Robbie Anderson starting at that number 3 spot, or maybe number 1 spot depending on your scheme, and not have AJ Green on the field just because he's a little too slow. And another great example is when a player gets injured, he's of course not seeing the field in the NFL. But that doesn't mean you can't use him in Madden. So in this case, Zach Ertz is currently injured. However, you can actually just sub him in at that number 1 spot and he'll still play while you're online. Now this helps a ton in creating good matchups in Madden and helping you win those online head-to-head regular team games. You'll notice in many online games that people will spam instant flats, and these instant flats can be quickly turned upfield for 15 and 20 yards, maybe more if they break the first tackle. Now, of course, if you're in man coverage, the first thing you'd want to do is probably shift a linebacker to that side in a hard flat. But the problem with doing that is the fact that the linebacker usually won't be able to cover or get out fast enough. So in this case, I have the linebacker shifted to the right, but regardless of that, you can still throw this instant flat and gain the same amount of yards. So what are we to do to actually solve this problem without shading down our defense, causing instant touchdowns for our opponents on streaks? Well, all you'll have to do is actually just go to your coaching adjustments on defense and put on 0-yard flats. 0-yard curl flats are decent and they'll sometimes play it, but a 0-yard flat will consistently play these wheel routes and instant flats, and they'll actually pick them off for pick sixes for you. So in this case, I'm going to do the exact same thing, shifting the linebacker over and pressing. You'll actually notice this time, since he's on a 0-yard flat, that he'll actually play that much, much better. And that'll stop those instant flats that are constantly bothering you in online games against people who are running tight sets and just instantly throwing wheel routes. If you're looking to run match coverage to stop these pesky bunch and tight sets because it's so effective against those formations, then you need to have the right coaching adjustments. So in this case, I just called a regular deep corner play and put my circle receiver on a streak. And on defense, I called cover 4 quarters. So in theory, it should match. Well, you'd think that. Unfortunately, no one on the field matched, and it was just a spot and drop cover 4, allowing me to easily throw this corner route right under the quarter. Now, what happened there? Well, if you go to my coaching adjustments, you'll find the culprit. I'm actually in a default alignment. Now, you have to put the zone coverage on match for it to actually recognize match coverage. If not, it'll play spot and drop. The other thing many people don't know about is if I set any of these zone drops to whatever, even 0, 5, it doesn't matter, your hooks, it'll actually not match. So in order to properly have match coverage work, you need to have all of the zone drops on default, and you also need your zone coverage on match. So let me just go through it one more time with the proper coaching adjustments. So I'm going to call deep corner with the streak once again. And as you can see, when I call it, the defense will actually match, and I can no longer throw that corner out under the quarter because everyone on the field will be matching. Now that we know how to properly set up our match coverages, we can create match cells for those pesky bunch and tight sets. So in this case, on offense, I'm going to call deep corner because it's a meta bunch and flood concept that you'll see a ton online. And on defense, I'm going to call cover 4 quarters. Now, the reason cover 4 quarters is so good is because the matching quarters will absolutely stop the corner routes and the flat routes that they could throw in bunch or tight. So in this case, I'm just in cover 4 quarters, and on offense, we're in deep corner. And as you can see, we have a flood concept going to the right side of the field. So all we needed to do is just call this play stock. We can use the middle linebacker if we'd like, but I don't have 4 hands. So unfortunately, we're just going to be on the D lineman, and I'm going to call this play. And as you can tell, when I call this play, the outside quarter matches the corner route, and the inside quarter matches the post route up until it reaches the other inside quarter. So I'm going to go over really quick what this looks like on instant replay. So in this case, we called match coverage. This corner route is matched by the outside corner. This post route is matched by the inside quarter, and this flat route is covered by our quarter flat, right? So all of the best plays that they'll go to run against you out of bunch and tight are usually flood concepts and can be easily countered by something like cover 4 quarters. For tip number 10, we're going to go over the best way to run the football dependent on your QB handedness. So when your quarterback is right-handed, like most quarterbacks are in the game, maybe if you're using Michael Vick, it's the opposite, you want to hand the ball off to the left. In this case, if we hand the ball off to the right, like our play has set up right now, you'll notice that the handoff is actually quite long, allowing the defender to make the play on the ball. And it's also more difficult to find the hole with a long handoff, and especially if your opponent is playing good run defense, you'll end up losing yards very quickly. However, if we flip the play and are running the ball to the left with our right-handed quarterback, remember, if you have a right-handed quarterback, you want to hand the ball off to the left, and if you have a left-handed quarterback, you want to hand the ball off to the right. It'll actually be a much quicker handoff, allowing us to find the hole just a little bit quicker and allowing us to gain those yards. That can sometimes be the difference between a touchdown and a tackle for a loss. In this video, we're going over the max protect run glitch and why it's so important to use on every run play. Now, all you have to do to set this up is press the left bumper and up on the right stick. Normally, max protecting is only used on pass plays to block all of the people that can be blocked. But if you use it on a run play, it's like playing with aggressive blocking. Your offensive line will target linebackers and defensive linemen much faster than they normally do. So in this case, when I use the max protect, you can see that they go and attack and knock over almost everyone on the field to the point where it's close to a weak box. That was a fantastic result, and many times that will happen, but most times you'll just get a really good blocking and you'll be able to take it for a pretty large hole. As you can see that my left guard looked like he had nasty streak right there just because I was max protecting. As you can see, when he went up the field to target the linebacker, it's not letting me click onto him, just allow me a moment, there we are. He immediately knocked him over for an easy pancake, and then when he went to target the safety, he knocked him over for an easy pancake. So I wouldn't say it's giving your players nasty streak, but they play much more aggressive and allow you to get some much larger chunks when you're running the ball. Now, I may have mentioned how to do this going down with your quarterback trick in the beginning of the video, but I have to mention it again because it's very effective. The reason it's effective, number one, is in the situation where you're about to get sacked and you don't want to fumble, going down with your quarterback can show you a way where you don't have to fumble and you can just take the sack without the fumble. The other reason it's great is if you're about to take a sack and you're thinking about throwing the ball away. Sometimes when you do that, the ball gets propped up in the air, the defensive lineman intercepts it, or the blitzing defensive back intercepts it, and ends up being an unfair pick six, and you feel that you got cheated. Now, the last reason going down with your quarterback is effective is the situation that I know many of you know well. You are on a passing down, and you don't want to run the ball here because you still want a chance of getting the first down. But nothing's open, and if you throw the ball away, then the clock stops and your opponent may get time to score on you later in the game. But what you would actually want to do is go down with your quarterback or give up with your quarterback, which has the same result as a run play, and the clock keeps running. And because of this, you can end up winning games just because you went down with your quarterback and your opponent doesn't have enough time to score and maybe take the lead later in the game. So without further ado, after I explain those use cases, to do this, all you have to do is press the snap button and then press L2, R2, L3, and R3, or in other words, both triggers and both sticks down. So I'm gonna do it one more time. And when you do all of them at once, your quarterback will go down. So make sure to use it in those very specific situations, and you'll find that you get cheated a lot less and your opponent gets a lot less time to play in the game. In this tip, we're going over the pass commit feature, when to use it and when not to use it. So on offense, you can see I'm in a run play, and on defense, I'm in, a regular defense, a pass defense, right? So in this case, if I were to not pass commit on defense and I were to run this run play, as you can tell, our linebacker shed the left guard, and it was only a 3 to 4 yard gain. However, if I were to pass commit on defense, which is R1 or the right bumper and up on the right stick, you can actually see that the linebacker just gets held through that entire play. So as you can tell, he wasn't given that shed opportunity. And the reason that is because we pass committed. So the best tip I can give you is, although pass committing can definitely help in the pass, so I'll call stick here and I'll pass commit on defense, you'll notice that the defensive line will shed a lot better. As you can see on that left side, number 15 shed almost immediately. So it's really good, but I only would use the pass commit feature on 3rd and longs or 4th and longs, because if you are caught with your pants down per se, and you do pass commit, you'll notice that there's wide open holes for the offense to score on easy runs with no effort if you are overusing the feature. In this tip, we're going to show you the best possible default shading. And when I say default shading, I mean universal shading. So the best way to shade against every offense at any time. right? So in this case, I'm in the trips tight end flex, and we're calling a very meta dagger play, right? And you would obviously think, okay, if there's a crosser coming, I should shade inside or over top or something like that. However, you actually would be very wrong. Now, what you would actually want to do is shade outside, because that's the best shade, and I'll explain it in just a moment. And if you have over the top help, like you're in cover 2 man, you want to shade outside and underneath. Now, what underneath does is it causes an intense press that although your corners may lose, but it'll take enough of the time for your defensive line to shed the offensive line that could cause a sack, and it just makes it a lot easier for you to play pass defense, because a good 3 to 4 seconds, or maybe 2 to 3 seconds, is taken up during that press animation. But that's only used if you have over the top help. But I'm just going to showcase what shaded outside and underneath does. Despite shading outside, it actually plays the inside routes quite well. If I were to throw that crosser, the corner would have jumped in front of it and ended up picking it, right? And as you can see, since I shaded down and underneath, I didn't even have enough time to throw that crosser because the press took so much time. And the reason we shade outside is because anything to the middle of the field, our user can be responsible for. So if we do lose to the inside of the field, our user can easily cover it. For example, if they were to run this same exact play, the dagger play, right? And that crosser did end up getting open, you can just easily user it because it's over the middle of the field. However, if it was a corner route, our user wouldn't be able to get to that at all. And because of that, they could just throw it without any, possibilities of an interception. Now, the other shading I recommend, especially if you're blitzing, is shading just outside. So if you're calling something like spinner out of dollar, all you want to do is press triangle or Y on Xbox and right on the right stick, right? And that's just to shade outside. The reason we don't want to shade underneath is because we'll actually get beaten on streaks, and you don't want them to just lob a streak for a touchdown on you. And because we don't have that over the top help that we had in cover 2 man, you don't want to shade underneath because they'll just throw the streaks on you, right? So in this case, if I'm just shading outside, as you can tell, I could cover everything over the middle, and if they were to throw a corner out, it would be completely covered, and our user wouldn't have to be worried about it. Last, but definitely not least, is how to aggressive catch against man coverage. Now, this is one of my favorite tips that I can ever give to someone, because man coverage, especially cover 0, like spinner or something along those lines, has been in the meta for so long, and the absolute best way to beat this is using this aggressive catch tactic. So in this case, we have someone big like Mike Evans, right? Mike Evans is 6'5", and he's on someone a little bit smaller. And this is why I recommend, if you're playing franchise, mutt, or even regs, you want to pick a team or have players that are tall. If they're too short, you won't be able to do this. I'd say anyone 6'2", 6'3", and up will be able to do it, but truthfully, the taller, the better. So all we have to do this is actually, once we snap the ball, is we want to snap it, and then when we do so, we want to press the L1 or LB on Xbox, and then we're going to pass lead it up, and I want to say at about 10 o'clock, up and outside, and we're going to bullet pass it. So I'm going to go over it one more time. So what we're doing is we're snapping the ball, pressing L1 or LB, and bullet passing outside, clicking on, and aggressive catching it, just like that. And we'll actually have it where the corner won't even be able to react to the ball, and we can just get large gains. And oftentimes, if your opponent goes for a pick, they're so far out of the play, or sometimes they'll just fall, that it ends up being an easy touchdown. So when I do this again, we're highballing it up and outside, clicking on, and aggressive catching it, right? And we aggressive catch it with triangle or Y on Xbox. It's really easy and it's really consistent. As you can see, I'm getting it, and it doesn't matter whether they're pressed or not pressed. If they do press, you just have to wait a little longer. So once those hips turn, we're gonna highball it and aggressive catch it, right? It's important that we have to pay attention to when the hips turn. So I'm just gonna summarize this one as it's a little bit more advanced. Number one, you are going to highball it, pass lead outside and up, so at about 10 o'clock. Then you're going to click onto the receiver and press triangle or Y on Xbox and aggressive catch it, right? And that's all you have to do to absolutely kill the cover 0 or cover 1 meta for easy touchdowns and large chunk plays. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're looking to get better at the game, I once again urge you to subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed, I always ask at the end, drop a like, and if you need help with anything in Madden, I want to know the best things that I can lab, or even just show you very easily in a video what you're struggling with. Just tell me what you're struggling with, and I would love to help and make a video on it. But if you're looking to get better at offense, check out the video on my right. And if you're looking to get better at defense, check out the video on my left. I hope you enjoyed, and go check out those videos. They'll definitely help.